I kept this a secret from practically everyone in my life until recently. A woman needs a good collection of shoes. A bitch discovered Substack this year. There are some times for me where clothing feels very predetermined. My hair had never looked better. This one was really hard for me. Hi, this is Anything to Wear. No, wait, oh my god, I forgot my own intro. Hi, welcome to my video. This is Anything to Wear, and I talk all things fashion. So it's that time of year. I can't believe 2025 is almost over. A lot has happened in my life, personally, professionally, but I think one of the most exciting things that I've gotten to experience this year is really committing to finding out who I am, finding my voice, and then sharing my life with you guys on the internet. When I thought about what I wanted to film this week, I landed on a 2025 favorites. I think my favorite thing about favorites videos as a viewer is seeing someone's most beloved collection of things and seeing what that says about them. I think it's such an intimate display of a person when they share their little knickknacks and treasures. And so, yeah, when I watch a favorites video, do I walk away with like one or two new products that I want to explore in the future? Absolutely. But I think I more so enjoy listening to another person open up about themselves and display part of their person through the things that they enjoy. So yeah, I think sharing your list of favorites is a lot more poetic that way than what typically comes across at face value. So I'm very excited to share my list of 2025 favorites for you guys. And I have a couple of different categories to share things from, but I restricted myself to only sharing my top 3 favorites from each of those categories so that I'm truly only sharing my most favorite things from this year. So enough with the talking. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first category that I have for you guys out of all my 2025 favorites is thrifted clothing. Okay, so first one that I have on my list is my $5 Prada shirt that I thrifted at Echo Thrift. I've talked about this shirt before in a separate video. Actually, it was another favorites video. It is still one of my favorites. The material is so light and airy. And did I buy it because it was Prada? Yes. But I have absolutely fallen in love with it. It's an incredible basic and it makes me want to explore more like vintage secondhand Prada. Next one that I have is this flowy 100% linen Banana Republic skirt. I wore it to a concert for the first time earlier this year and it was the perfect choice. And it's so versatile. I find myself even wanting to style it for the winter. Keep in mind, we have really mild winters here in Houston. And so I don't think it would be the world's hardest thing to pull it out for a winter look, especially because I've been seeing a ton of inspiration on Pinterest and TikTok of people styling like cotton and linen for the winter. So I might be doing that soon. And then the last thing that I have on my list for thrifted items will be my most treasured and most favorite, my very first pair of Dior flats. I bought them when my husband and I were in Mexico City earlier this year. I found them at Irene Bufa, which is like a luxury secondhand shop in Mexico City. They have a couple of different locations, but I found that one in Roma Norte, I think. They were like the very first thing I saw when I walked up the stairs. I was absolutely mesmerized by them. And that's when I feel like it's destiny. There are some times for me where clothing feels very predetermined, you know? And those shoes were that for me. I saw them there, tried them on, they fit like a glove, and they were practically new. So I bought them and I have worn them to death. And I cannot wait to be a little old lady and pass them down to my daughter. My friends hear me say this all the time, and so many other people have the same philosophy of like buying luxury goods or just like nice things so that one day you can pass them on to other people. Moving on to category number 2. This is my 2025 favorites of new fashion items that I purchased, so not secondhand. Okay, first one is my suede flats from Reformation that I bought myself for my birthday. I turned 27 this year, and so it was like my official journey into my late 20s. I wanted to celebrate turning 27 and make sure that I remembered it as like a really special birthday by buying myself a birthday gift, and a really nice one at that. I'm a woman, and if I want to buy myself a brand new pair of designer shoes, I can. And so I splurged. I got these suede ballet pumps from Reformation. I have been a long time fan of ballet pumps. To me, they will never go out of style. I literally don't care what the fashion cycles say. I'm gonna be in a pair of ballet pumps, and I have worn so many pairs of ballet pumps to death. And so I was just gonna add a new texture, a new color to my collection, and the cost per wear on these things for me is criminal. Next one on my favorites list is also from Reformation. For my birthday, I asked for this very pretty pink cardigan, and my husband bought it for me. And I think that to be loved is to be seen, even though I explicitly asked for that cardigan. I've had so much fun wearing it. It's so soft, versatile, and I can only imagine that if I take very good care of it, I will have it for a really long time. And then the last thing on my new list is going to be Tory Burch loafers. This one was a little bit more of a spontaneous buy for me. I have this chunky pair of loafers from H&M, and I had worn them for several years, and I work in a corporate office, so I wear loafers all the time. And my H&M loafers were just starting to look really sad, and it was time to replace them. And I know I wanted to do that with shoes that had longevity and that I had loved, that I really liked, because I think a lot of times I would always sacrifice on shoe wear, and that I always just kind of liked my shoes because I wasn't willing to pay more or, whatever, like invest a ton of time and effort in sourcing good shoes. But now that, again, I'm a woman needs a good collection of shoes. That's it for that section. Now we're moving on to hair. So first thing on my list is not a product, but a service. I kept this a secret from practically everyone in my life until recently, but a couple months ago, I got a Brazilian blowout. And as you guys can see, I have curly hair. So what does that mean? For those of you guys unfamiliar with Brazilian blowouts, basically what they are is almost, I think it's a protein treatment, and it smooths your hair strands to help minimize frizz. When Houston reaches the summer months, humidity here goes insane. And I felt like a lot of the days I was constantly struggling with my hair. Maybe some curly girls don't feel the same way I do, but I think so many of us go through this moment of like hating their curly hair. It's so high maintenance, feeling like we look better with straight hair. And at some point, a lot of curly girls kind of like turn the corner and go, no, actually, I really love my curly hair. I don't care what the maintenance is. I love it. I look better like this, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm 27 years old and that moment hasn't happened. And I was really struggling with frizz. It was driving me insane. And I remember the day that I decided it, I just booked the appointment like cold turkey, that this is what I'm doing. I'm not talking to anyone else about it. I'm not letting anyone else weigh in on this decision because I know that I have to do this for me. I went through with it. I got the treatment, and I 100% would do it again. I really put a ton of trust into my hairstylist, and I told Bella that, I wasn't looking to get rid of my curls. I just needed something that would help me with the frizz. My hair had never looked better. It was shiny, it was soft, and I didn't touch a hot tool for like 7 weeks, which is a record for me. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that was like a huge deal to me. The fact that I hadn't applied heat to my hair in almost 2 months. I just found a lot more love for my hair, and even now, like, the treatment has definitely washed out. Like, my hair is back to being its natural curly pattern. There is a little bit more frizz, but I just needed to hit the reset button. The Brazilian blowout made my favorites list for 2025. I feel like that's a tad controversial for people with curly hair, but I needed to do that for myself, and I'm glad that I did it. Next one is I also got a bounce curl brush, and these things, incredible. I had purchased a fake one off of Amazon a couple months before, Don't do it, guys. Like for me, the real one is worth it. Support that small business. Buy the original bounce brush. You will not regret it. And then last thing on my hair list is one product that my hairstylist put me on. Kevin Murphy Easy Rider. It's almost like a pomade, and my hairstylist had actually used this on my hair while it was straight to help smooth some of the frizz at the top. But I've since then started putting it in my hair while wet, like when I'm styling it, and it makes my curls dry so soft and shiny because it just kind of coats your hair to help protect it from frizz. Incredible. Highly recommend if you're a curly girl. Beauty is next. I kind of like lumped in skincare into this category because I'm not like super explorative. Is that a word? Like I don't explore a ton of beauty or like skincare products. One, because my face is very sensitive, and two, when I find something that works for my face, like that's enough for me. First thing on my list is the squalane serum from The Ordinary. This is especially helpful for people who have rosacea. I have really, really sensitive skin, and I had discovered their rosehip oil a couple years ago, and that majorly helped with the redness and dryness in my face. But this year, I combined it, and so I'm now using the rosehip oil with the squalane before bed. When I wake up, my skin looks incredible, even during the months that I really, really struggle with rosacea. And then I have two other products that I'll talk about pretty much at the same time because I discovered them at the same time. This was the year that I discovered Elicor. I'll get into it in a little bit more in a second. But that means I also got to explore Korean beauty products. And I had already dabbled with like Korean skincare, Korean face oils, but this year I tried their mascara. It is incredible. And I'm currently trying the Can Make Tokyo Quick Lash Curler. And their applicators are so interesting because these aren't bristles. It's very much just like plastic. The waterproof formula of this thing is pretty solid. Like I had to buy a separate like Korean mascara remover because like nothing was getting this off of my eyes. But that meant that my curl was going nowhere. Then I also discovered this brand, the Rom and Lippies. They're like juicy lasting tint, and I have it in two different colors. This is 28 Bare Fig, 12 Cherry Bomb. I have the combination of both of these on my lips today. I have really liked them. I had already spent so much money on like the lip oil realm of the beauty world, and the truth is, as nice as they feel on your lips, the color disappears in like 30 seconds. I feel like I breathe and the color is gone. And so I found those at Elicor and I absolutely love them. So they made my list. We're almost done. Second to last category that I have for you guys is books. Okay, guys. This one was really hard for me. For those of you guys that don't know, I have a book club, and I've been running this book club for 2 years, a little over 2 years. So choosing a book, it was like choosing my favorite child. I don't have children. I don't know why I said that. Choosing my favorite cat. I did some soul searching to just come up with my top 3 books. And I settled on 2 nonfiction and 1 fiction. First one is Orgullo Prieto by Tenoch Huerta. Tenoch Huerta is a famous Mexican actor. If you're not familiar, he starred in the second Black Panther. He plays like the Mexican evil god. But he had like a really long and successful career in Mexico before that. And in his book, it's almost like autobiographical accounts of his firsthand experience with racism in Mexico. But he also does a really good job of contextualizing racism in Mexico with different like history examples. And the reason that the book was so life-changing for me was because I had never really stopped to think about the differences between racism here in the United States and racism in Mexico. One of my biggest takeaways from the book is that Tenoch Huerta argues that Mexico as a whole tries to convince itself that it is just a classist country and not a racist country. But Tenoch gives so many different examples of why that is not the case. Very good book. very eye-opening, and so I had to make my list. Okay, second book on my favorites list is Scream With Me. I've also talked about this book so much this year, and that's so much evidence as to why I absolutely love it and had to make this list. Scream With Me is basically like a feminist analysis of a set of different horror films. A lot of them are classic, but some are modern. And they explore the genre of domestic horror, which is coined by the author of the book. And in it, the author analyzes these different films to give examples on how the horror movies reflect a lack of personal agency, reproductive agency, sexual agency that women were facing in the times that they were created. It's almost like using these horror films as a basis for analyzing different like moments in like female rights history in the United States. I ate that shit up. I think my favorite part in the book was at the very end when the author, after analyzing all of these different films and having a lot of these complex and important conversations, just begs readers, women specifically, to write their stories. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And the most powerful thing that we can do as women is to be seen as people. Beg to be seen as people. And I could tear up just thinking about it, but I won't. And I'll move on. Last one on my list is The Virgin Suicides. I have read this book before, watched the movie adaptation by Sofia Coppola a million times, but this year I reread it and I had to put it on my list because I had such a different experience with reading that material this time around as a 27-year-old. I made a whole Substack about it, so if you're interested in really diving into it, I recommend reading it. I'll link it down below. But basically, like before, I would read it and kind of just like romanticize and connect with like the teenage angst that's present in the novel, but that's such a surface level like analysis of the material. And now as I'm older, I was also reading that book when I was listening to Scream With Me. So it almost like trained me to have like a more feminist analysis of the novel this time around with some like emotional baggage that I have around religion. So it made for a very interesting read this time. And then my very last category is just like miscellaneous other things. Remember when I said I discovered Ellie Core this year? I read this article in The Atlantic like a couple months ago on the concept of adulthood. I think it's so fascinating. And I'm a proud participant of the adulthood movement. Basically, if you're unfamiliar, it's just putting a word to this activity of grown adults buying stuffies and cute things and hanging on to pieces of their childhood because these are trying times. These are trying times, and I think if you want to fucking color. If you want to buy stuffies, buy stuffies. There's a lot of other like interesting theories that the article talks about too in relation to adulthood too. Like, you know, just our demographic, like Gen Z millennial being more open about talking about like mental health and just like personal struggles, and how that in turn makes us more open about the skills that we use to cope with how hard life is. Thus, adulthood was born. So I love stuffies. And will I be buying more stuffies? Probably. And other cute things because life's too short to be boring. Next one on my list is Substack. A bitch discovered Substack this year, and I'm not mad about it. In fact, I'm obsessed with it. There's a lot of people way more smart than me that are talking about the fatigue that like Gen AI and short form content is having on our brains. And I just have like full send embraced long form content this year. There's a lot of incredible people on Substack, but the first person that I discovered on Substack, and that I think is the only one I want to mention in my video today, is MilkFed. If you start anywhere on Substack, start there, girl. Like if you are a curator, a person who enjoys soft living and finding beauty in the mundane, MilkFed for you. She also has incredible reading recommendation, food recommendations. She's just like, who created this incredible person and just slapped them on the internet? I don't know, but has an incredible Substack. and I will be a proud subscriber for a long time. We finally reached the very end of my list of my 2025 favorites, and it is very general. Again, news subscriptions. I finally caved and got myself an Apple News subscription, and I have not looked back since. I very much like Substack and also enjoying just like the traditional media landscape because Substack is very new and it definitely is reinforcing the idea of like the, what is it? Like the freelance journalist. I think that's really cool. I think that's important. But it's also just as important to support and consume traditional media outlets. I studied public relations in college, and so I will always be a fan of traditional journalism. And so, yeah, that's what I'm also consuming and had to make my favorites list. And I highly recommend for other people, again, just like with Substack, if you're looking to use your brain a little bit more, enrich your life, and keep learning, one of the most amazing places to do that is with journalism, true, real journalism. So get a new subscription. I wasn't even specific with which ones. You pick. That brings us to the very end of my list. I've been talking for like an hour to myself. I need water. If you have been subscribed to me for a while and have been watching me on this wild ride that I've been on for a year of posting on YouTube consistently, thanks for being here. And I feel so lucky and happy that I get to create stuff for you guys. If you're new here and this is the first time you're seeing my face, stick around. There's going to be even more cool stuff in 2026. All right, that's it. Bye.